Hello, horror fans, and welcome back to Jay vs. Horror. I'm your host, Jay Wall, and today, guys, we're going to be talking about 5 more awesome horror movies that you can watch absolutely for free anytime you want, totally legal. Now, we're going to tell you a little bit about the movie, we're going to show you the trailer to the movie, and then we're going to put all the links to each film in the description to this video so you can just cruise down there, click the link, and go straight to the movie. Guys, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started at number 5, Resurrection. It's a 1999 American-Canadian horror thriller film directed by Russell Mulcahy and starring Christopher Lambert with Leland Orser and Robert Joy. It also has a quick cameo from David Cronenberg in the movie. Now, what's fun about this one is that Christopher Lambert actually co-wrote the story for this film with Brad Meerman, and then Meerman turned around and adapted that into a screenplay for the movie. Now, let's be honest, guys, the first thing that you're really going to notice about Resurrection is that it is very derivative of many other serial killer films. It just really kind of does it well. Is it a ripoff of Seven? I don't know. It definitely comes after that, and it's definitely inspired by that. But to call it a ripoff is a little much. It does have its own story, and it's a pretty damn good movie. The plot follows Detective John Prudhomme and his partner Hollingsworth, who are assigned to investigate the savage murder of a man whose left arm has been completely sawed off. A message, "He is coming," is found written in lamb's blood on the victim's window. After another victim is discovered with a missing right arm and then yet another with a missing head, detectives realize they are dealing with a serial killer, right? Now, the third victim, who has his head removed, after they study some Roman numerals found carved into the victim by the killer, they realize that when these numbers are combined with the victims' names, Matthew, Peter, and James, these numerals are actually citing Bible verses related to the resurrection of Jesus. So, in essence, that's what this killer's plan is, to resurrect Jesus Christ, and he's taking body parts from different people to create the body of Christ in time for Easter. Yes, it is very much like Seven, but it also has its own moments too, guys. Like, it's very smart in its procedural aspect, but also in the gore. Like, there's some gore in here that you're not going to see everywhere else. It's a pretty fun movie. The film is very stylistic for its time, though, and it also has a great atmosphere about it. Now, if you can get past the fact that it's obviously a carbon copy of Seven, you're going to enjoy it a lot. It has a great story and a great ending. Guys, let's take a look at the trailer for 1999's Resurrection.
Good evening. As it has been, our top story tonight continues to be the ongoing search for a serial killer.
Guy comes in here, cuts another guy's head off, walks off with it, and nobody sees anything, no witnesses?
The lab says it wasn't human. It says it was lamb's blood.
A detective is about to test his faith.
All the victims were 33 years old, the same age as Christ when he died. The guy's rebuilding the body of Christ.
And his sanity. Resurrection. Christopher Lambert. Leland Orser. Question your sanity. And have mercy on your soul. Because Judgment Day has arrived. From the director of Highlander and The Shadow comes a horrifying story about 2 cops who must find a madman before it's too late. Be afraid, for he has risen. Resurrection.
At number 4, Super Dark Times. It's a 2017 American independent psychological thriller directed by Kevin Phillips and starring Owen Campbell and Charlie Tahan. This was Phillips' directorial debut, and it's a pretty great film in my opinion, guys. After a traumatic accident, An inseparable pair of teenage boys and best friends lose their innocence from jealousy, violence, and paranoia. And so there was another film that came out around this same time called Summer of '84, and it kind of has the same nostalgic feel, but this one's set in '96 and the circumstances are very different. We see that in upstate New York, two teenage best friends, Zach and Josh, are rating girls in their yearbook. They find a common interest in a girl named Allison. After school, the duo crosses the path of the universally disliked Daryl and his 8th grade friend Charlie. Later that week, the four boys meet up to hang out at Josh's house, where they look through the possessions of Josh's older brother. They find a bag of marijuana and a katana sword. Afterwards, the boys get high and play with the sword in a forest, and after a tense argument, Josh and Daryl fight, resulting in Daryl being accidentally stabbed in the neck with the katana. Daryl runs from the scene but soon dies of his injuries, and the boys panic and of course try to hide both Daryl's body and the weapon. Now, from here, the boys kind of go in different paths. They're all in shock from what's happened, and they're trying to cover it up. We see that Zach is having nightmares, and the other two boys are also facing incredible guilt about what's happened here. But Josh, the boy who actually killed Daryl, starts to become unhinged and very disturbed. And from here, the movie only gets darker. It has a great, intense ending, guys, and it's one of the best films I've seen probably since Bully and River's Edge, that really infiltrates what it's like to be a teenager in a situation that you cannot control. This one didn't get a lot of press, guys, but for me it's absolutely stellar. A solid 8.5 out of 10 film. Let's take a look at the trailer for Super Dark Time.
Guys, my parents rented that movie, True Lies. Don't do it. I watched that scene where she strips over and over and over.
The Silver Surfer is the loneliest dude in the galaxy.
I mean, the Punisher is pretty haunted.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Allison Bannister.
Hi.
Would you? I don't know. I like her. Yeah, I like her too.
He's got a thing for me. I like you, Zach.
She's hot, like Charlie's sister.
Shut up.
Oh my God. Yeah! Let me see that.
Give it back.
You want it? Come and get it. Stop! Stop! What did you do? What did you do?
Do you remember Daryl Harper? Got a call from his mom. Guess he never came home last night. Did you see him at school today?
Are you okay?
There's just a lot going on right now.
Josh?
We should go back.
What?
I don't know, but I just keep thinking of his mom.
Don't go back there.
You need to listen to me.
No, you need to listen to yourself.
You're scared all the time.
Get away from home.
If anyone asks, we're not friends.
I'm not getting any sleep. I know how you feel.
No, you don't know how I feel.
What's happening? We're friends.
At number 3, The Dark Half. It's a 1993 American horror film adapted from Stephen King's 1989 novel of the same name. The film was directed by the great George A. Romero, and it stars Timothy Hutton as both Thad Beaumont and George Stark. Amy Madigan plays Liz, and Michael Rooker stops by as Alan Pangborn. The plot follows an author of highbrow literary novels named Thad Beaumont, who is better known for his best-selling murder mystery suspense thrillers that he writes under the pen name of George Stark. A local reporter shows up and tries to blackmail Thad with this information, saying he's going to go tell everyone that Thad, this highbrow author, is the one who writes these trashy novels under the pen name of George Stark. And Thad wishes to retire the Stark name anyway, so he symbolically buries Stark in a mock grave. However, Stark has somehow mysteriously become a physical entity at this point, and he begins terrorizing Thad's family and friends after he emerges from the grave. I like this film a lot, guys. It's a great 90s thriller with great pacing, and it really kind of feels like Stephen King wrote a slasher. That's how this movie kind of plays out. I liked it a lot. I even liked the mythology here with, Stark and Thad being the same person but being two different parts of the same person, or twins in a sense, and how Stark comes to be is a pretty interesting story in itself. So yeah, guys, highly recommend The Dark Half. It's one of the Stephen King movies that nobody really talks about. It's got a great cast, it's got a great director, and of course the story is strong, so I don't know why it's not mentioned more. Let's take a look at the trailer for 1993's The Dark Half.
Thad Beaumont has a secret.
I know all about it.
A piece of himself he keeps hidden.
You just don't want to give up George. You become attached to him.
Locked away until he needs it.
These behaviors could be interpreted as schizophrenia.
Away from the light, safe in the shadows.
I wrote those words, and I have no recollection of doing it.
But sometimes secrets take on a life of their own. Thad Beaumont thought he didn't need George Stark anymore.
The American way of death.
That's it.
He served his purpose. Time to lay him to rest. But George is not about to go quietly.
You really don't realize what you're like when you write those books, do you? It's like watching Jekyll turn into Hyde.
We're here to question you in connection with a capital crime.
Evidence says you did it.
George Stark has somehow come to life.
Hello, George.
I can come closer to believe a ghost story than this. You're talking about a man who never was.
He wants to take over your life. Can't you see that?
Based upon a book by Stephen King, comes George A. Romero's masterful vision of a nightmare come true.
Are you ready? Just waiting on you.
The Dark Half.
At number 2, The First Power. It's a 1990 American neo-noir horror film written and directed by Robert Resnikoff and starring Lou Diamond Phillips, Tracy Griffith, Jeff Kober, and McKelty Williamson. And this film is also about a serial killer, guys, but it has a bit of a supernatural twist to it. We see Lou Diamond Phillips chasing a sadistic serial killer known as the Pentagram Killer throughout Los Angeles. He's killing innocent people as a sacrifice to Satan, and his specific MO is to engrave a pentagram symbol into the flesh of his victims before killing them. So, sounds a little bit like Richie Ramirez, right, guys? Detective Russell Logan, played by Lou Diamond Phillips, is determined to bring him to justice, so he takes some information from a psychic and promises her that the killer will not be executed if he is caught. Detective Logan is able to apprehend the killer, but then he goes back on his word, and him and the prosecution go for the death penalty, and they get it. Now, here's where we find out the twist. This psychic who didn't want him to go for the death penalty with this killer was not saying that because she was a humanitarian. She was saying that because she knew the extensive power of this person. He is trying to obtain the 3 powers of Christ, and of course, the first one is resurrection. So very similar story to the first film we talked about, which was titled Resurrection. This one's a little different, though. It has kind of the Shocker twist to it, right? There was several films like this in that era. Shocker, House 3, the horror show, as they also call it. And then later on, we had another one called Johnny Frank Garrett's Last Word, which was an interesting film about a killer who was executed and came back. You know, this one was financially successful when it came out, but it did not get any love from critics. It's a film that's slowly built a cult following over the years, and it's one I still enjoy watching to this day. Guys, let's take a look at the trailer for The First Power.
Since the beginning of time, Satan has worked to create the perfect killer. One who kills many without reason. One who cannot be stopped. Today, that man exists. Be warned.
We're just going to go through a very small door here.
Lou Diamond Phillips is hunting a man who kills for the sake of killing. Tracy Griffith might be the only one who can help stop him.
I know where he's going next.
But this location fits the pentagram pattern on the map, and my informant says this is where he's gonna strike next.
This is the third time in less than 5 years that Logan has been responsible for the death or capture of a serial killer.
See you around, buddy boy.
I doubt it.
Each death makes him stronger.
How did you know where he was going next?
I opened myself up to him. You might have executed his body, but his spirit has been released.
He has the third power. He could be anywhere.
How's the stomach, buddy boy?
He has the second power.
Hi, cutie.
He could be anyone.
Sister.
Oh, I'm afraid she's not here.
Now, he has the first power.
See you around, buddy boy.
Immortality.
You don't have any idea of what you'll be facing.
You can't go on killing forever.
You wanna bet?
The first power.
All right, horror fans, at number 1, we have a special treat for you, a 2020 film that a lot of people missed. It's called Let It Snow, and it's a 2020 horror thriller slasher film directed by Stanislav Kapralov. The film was also written by Kapralov, along with his writing partner, Omri Rose, and it stars Ivana Saknikov and Alex Hafner. The film starts out on this huge mountain where we see a tragedy occur. And then it fast forwards a few years and we see Mia and her boyfriend Max on vacation, and they're world-class winter sports people. She's a free-riding snowboarder and he's a skier. And we see them sneak onto this restricted slope. This is the same slope where the accident happened at the beginning of the film. Now, once they're at the top of the mountain, things go terribly wrong and they are attacked by a malicious, masked snowmobile rider in black who's out for blood. Now, it gets really interesting when we see that Mia and Max are separated, because now Mia has to make it all the way down this insane mountain in freezing temperatures, and that's part of the horror to this film. I don't know if you've ever seen someone actually suffer frostbite, but it is detailed well in this story. It's terrible, guys. Also, she's dealing with this killer, and I don't want to give too much away, but there's not a lot of kills in the movie because it's just her and Max, but the kills that there are very brutal. I thought they were very interesting, the way they set that up. And there's also like a whole mythology here to what's happened on this mountain that plays out. It's kind of explained. Now, the film didn't get much love when it came out. I think Bloody Disgusting gave it a bad review, but who cares what they think? I mean, those guys, I remember in 2019 they ripped Joker, they ripped Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and all of a sudden this really crappy, terrible movie called The Night Sitter, they're talking about how it's one of the best films of the decade. You know, so basically the deal with a lot of these websites, I'm not going to say that's their deal, but even though I've heard some stuff, the deal with these websites is you pay them $5,000-$10,000 for advertising. They'll advertise your movie on their site, and you also get a damn good review. Anyway, it just gets a little aggravating for actual horror critics sometimes, I would imagine. And that being said, guys, I like this movie a lot. I thought it was a strong 7 out of 10, and it was very underrated as a slasher in a year that didn't have very many of them that were worth mentioning. With that being said, horror fans, let's take a look at the trailer for Let It Snow.
It'll just be us, snow, 2 boards, and
Black Ridge.
I hope you enjoy your stay. I just wanted to tell you something. You shouldn't go to the Black Ridge. There are other places you can go, more beautiful and less dangerous.
Danger. That's exactly what we're after.
5 days ago, a man disappeared there.
Okay, let's do this.
There's a heavy fog. Max, where are you? Max.
Run.
Please just tell me where you are. Max? Are you okay?
Alright, horror fans, that's all we've got for this week. And like I said before, don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Check us out on Patreon. You want to get in on this giveaway that we're having for our patrons from Patreon. Everyone who donates $2 or more to our channel is entered into the drawing, and it is for the entire Friday the 13th, the series collection. Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. And then every month after that, on the 1st, you'll be entered into another drawing for 2 free Blu-rays, and we're going to keep that going as long as we're getting good feedback from our patrons there on Patreon. I had fun today, guys, but now it's time for me to get to work. I've got to get started on my top 10 horror films of 1985 list, and the reason why I say it's going to take me a little bit longer than usual is because I've got 4 movies to watch this time. Usually I don't have to watch any movies, but there were 2 that I hadn't seen, and I want to be totally fair about every year that we cover. So The Doctor and the Devils with Timothy Dalton is a film I have not seen. I'm going to be watching today. Also, another one called Warning Sign, which I have not seen, from 1985, that has an excellent cast. I want to check that one out before I make any decisions. And there's 2 that I saw, probably when I was 15, probably 25, 26 years ago, called Life Force, and the other one is called Underworld by Clive Barker, or also Transmutations, I believe it's also called. So I'm going to rewatch those because, what I remember about them from being 15 years old probably doesn't do them any justice, and I wanted to take a second look just to make sure they either do or don't belong on the top 10 list. And guys, as always, we will talk to you the next time we've got something worth talking about. Bye.